Sustainable finance is a big topic in financial services, so we had to cover it at the Beyond Banking 2024 conference. I'm joined now by Annabel Bishop, who's the Chief Economist at Investec. Annabel, thank you for taking some time to chat. So you spoke a lot around and used the word being sensible when we deal with climate risks and sustainable finance. So I wanted to get your opinion on how should banks and the banking industry go about managing the risks that come about from climate change, but also sensibly funding the needs of our economies?
Yes, hi. So I think, if we look at climate change, that's really a negative externality in economics, which comes from carbon-intensive manufacturing of goods and, of course, also production of services. And climate change mitigation, which obviously we're talking about here, green finance, sustainable finance, obviously looks to try and reduce the impact of climate change by limiting global warming. We also, of course, have adaptation finance as well. So many different avenues of finance here, which in turn obviously looks to try and address the impact that climate change itself can have, for example, physical risk. So when you look at the banking industry itself, there are both risks, as you said, and also opportunities as well. In South Africa, a lot of the risks are at the moment being really assessed by the Reserve Bank, our prudential authority, of course National Treasury also looking at a green taxonomy for South Africa, but in particular really with guidance from the Reserve Bank, banks will start to do modelling in terms of looking at the impact that climate change will have on the bank itself, on its finances, and of course in terms of losses, and of course obviously opportunities come in terms of providing finance, green finance as you mentioned. Look, I think in South Africa, we are still in the early stages of bringing in these rules and regulations, certainly from a prudential authority perspective, but there is the National Treasury has already brought in a green taxonomy on finance, which really looks at it's a catalogue, if you will, of sustainable financing, of what is determined as sustainable financing, what is determined as green finance. That will help the banking industry and of course the financial services industry in general to actually understand it deeper and to be able to have a more uniform approach. And of course, that's really what it's about, to try and obviously limit the effects of climate change, but also of course as well be an avenue to provide the assistance and help that's needed, both in terms of, as we said, mitigating global warming, but also of course as well to do it in a just and fair way and to assist individuals in the economy. And really South Africa's taken the approach that it needs to be done in an equitable way to move to a greener economy, where we obviously look at also helping and reducing inequality in South Africa, yes, but also of course as well the really important point of looking at what for as an emerging market economy will severe climate change really mean for us, our economy and our people. The Reserve Bank recently indicated that with many of the transition risks that we have, there's something known as CBAM, which is carbon border adjustment mechanism. We're going to start seeing advanced economies put essentially some form of tax on imports that come into them which are carbon intensive. And South Africa, while it has a low level of emissions, it does have high carbon intensity. So this obviously could, at the worst case scenario, the Reserve Bank says reduce our GDP by maybe 9 to 10%. Of course, that comes in the 2030s, so people perhaps are less worried about it now than they should be, but there's a long path to obviously greening an economy and to severely reducing our greenhouse gas emissions.
Yeah. I don't think we can talk about climate risk without acknowledging the long timelines and the uncertainty of it. I think really climate risk modeling is at the cutting edge of banking at the moment. So Annabel, thank you so much for sharing your insights. Always great to chat to you, and hopefully we see you next year.
Thank you very much.
Cheers.